Hello, everybody, wherever you are in this amazing world. Welcome back to the Draw Juice universe. I'm Chris Petracchi, or if you're new here, please consider liking and subscribing and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And by the way, I'm having a Christmas sale on my website over at Draw Juice, up to 40% off on courses and books. So I just wanted to mention that. And let's see. Let me know if you can hear me. I don't have a webcam today, but just let me know that you can see my drawing surface and you can hear me. That would be awesome. Today we're going to, oh yeah, one more thing. If you want to be part of a community of growing artists that are supportive and leveling up, then join the Discord server, and the link will be in the description for that. That's a great place to be part of the Draw Juice community. Give me a shout out, let me know where you're at. And I'm just going to assume everything is okay at the moment. And today what we're going to do is get into a little bit of colored pencil and probably just do like a one color, maybe two colors, but we'll start simple. Colored pencil's a little bit tricky because it really kind of gets into the page. They're soft, so they get into the nooks and crannies of the paper, and it's hard to remove. It's hard to erase. So what we're going to do is start with a kind of a more easily erasable pencil. This Col Erase made by Sanford. They're a little bit easier to erase than the colored pencils themselves. And so this one on the left is an example of kind of a one color or analogous colors. And that means that these colors are close to each other on the color wheel. So they're, you know, for instance, purple, dark purple, light purple, a more blue purple or more warm purple. So they're just very close to each other on the color wheel. It's a good place to start. And so let's jump in. The head on the right is, you know, colors all over the place. So it's kind of in a middle state, not finished, right? So just kind of keep going here. All righty. So let's see. So drawing this girl, I gotta figure out where to place this on the page. That's good for you guys. Something like that. That's the bottom. Okay. So like I said, this is a little bit easier to erase, this kind of pencil. I'm just going to start with some straight lines, find the shape of the head, you know, find the tilt, right? And average angle, see if we're looking neutral or up or down on the figure. I'm always using kind of a combination of tools Like I can use the Riley rhythms, or I can use the planes of the face. And so I haven't used colored pencils in a long time, but I need to break out a little bit. I need a little bit of a change. And so I want to try something different. Hanyo, hi. You're welcome. He says, thank you for sharing. He or she. Nice to see you. Where are you from? So the eyes are kind of in the middle here. Looks like a bit of an angle. Not really warmed up today, just jumping in, having a good time. You gotta have a good time. Right? Get a little music going. See if I can just move back slightly. Okay. Very good. Mm. You guys are awful quiet out there. Let me hear from you. So I always want to make sure my features are lined up along the vertical. Right? There's the center line. And I want to make sure that these things are all lined up. Those are my construction lines, basically. Kind of the unseen portrait. I love building portraits that way. That's my scaffold method. An acronym scaffold is kind of purposely employed because I like to build drawings, kind of like putting in the kitchen, putting in the plumbing, putting in the foundation, putting in the roof. Before you make things all pretty, you got to make sure the house is going to stand up, right? Same thing with your drawing. Just going to build it. Make sure it has enough structure. So using the planes, using the Riley rhythms is what that's all for. I find that the structure is the first thing to go. Hey Ace, how you doing? Nice to see you. Since we're on a 2D surface, the structure is the first thing to go. The 3D sort of ness, if you will. And so using corners, straight lines, straight line blocking kind of helps me, ensures that the drawing is going to keep that idea all the way through. So I want that idea to be strong in the beginning so that it holds up, doesn't get lost throughout the course of the drawing. I don't know if that makes sense. I think it does. Gotta make sure my nose is wide enough. And then Arado Arts asks, hi Chris, from the rainy UK. Other than erasing the pencil colors, is there any other major difference to normal pencils? Is it easy to smudge, for example? It's not as easy to smudge as, let's say, your HB, your B, your 2B graphite pencils. They don't smudge as easy. They're kind of waxy, and like I said, they kind of get into the paper and it's harder to erase. They're soft, so you have to keep sharpening them. They lose their point more easily. So you have to have a nice pencil sharpener around, preferably an electric one, because the handheld ones, they'll just, kind of crumble. And so I have an electric eraser, and that works really good. I'm sure some good handheld ones will work, but usually, I guess maybe I had some cheap ones in the past. They would just crumble, and so that was frustrating. Let's see, how are we doing here? Good question, Arato Arts. They will smudge if you dig in or use a tortillon, right? Or paper smudge thing. Or even this, you can use pan pastel sponge to smudge. That works good. So is this thing, let me see if this is focused. Is that better? Okay, that's better focus. It was a little bit out of focus there. These lips, I just kind of start with a little arc. And since we're in 3/4 view, it's a little bit accelerated, right? It's long here and then quickly makes a change in direction. Put in a little tubercle right there. And then a reverse, kind of a U shape. It's kind of she's got her mouth just a little bit open, it looks like. So there's these two little pillows here of on the lower lip. They're kind of divided into this section and this section here. Then on top we have that Cupid's bow kind of thing. I think I want to make those lips a little taller. So, Arado Arts, you said you are in rainy UK. Well, it's been raining here in California pretty hard the last few days. Like, we've been in a drought, and so it's been, boom, just suddenly raining, and it's nerve-wracking to drive, especially at night on the freeway. There's just, you know, a lot of backsplash from the cars in front of you. You know, they're working on the roads, so the lanes aren't as clear as it would be nice for them to be. Actually, out here in California, it's pretty much a mess. The roads, the quality of the roads, the upkeep sucks. At least in the San Francisco area. You know, they widened the freeway and they repainted it. It was terrible. Like they have double lines for the lanes. It's almost as if some drunk high schoolers got out there and painted the road and said, we just don't give a damn. And so there's like double lines, you know, instead of, so your lane isn't clear where you're supposed to be. And it's dangerous. It's right by the airport, a highly trafficked, you know, place. People coming in and out from out of state, out of country, and, you know, trying to drive in that. It's like a joke. So I don't know if that's temporary and they're going to repave it, hopefully. All right, so we're doing okay, I think. Oh, Ace got Essence a few weeks back, still reading another book, but can't wait to get started. Yeah, Ace is talking about my book called Essence that I wrote. And thank you. Thank you for that support, Ace. I really appreciate it. Um, so that book, it was like, took me years to make that book. I don't know, 7 years or more. And it kind of started when I went to China. That's when I started really doing portraits in charcoal. And so the book has stories about my life in China and how interesting the people were. I started photographing a lot, photographing my own reference, just bringing it back to the apartment and breaking out the charcoal and drawing and learning. And it was really hard to get materials in China because, well, I didn't know what I was getting. I couldn't really read the stuff, but getting quality stuff in a small town, and then the humidity. A lot of times weather comes into play. You wouldn't think, but it does. And so the paper would get a little damp, and so that affects everything as well. And so that's like a saga, like a journey all on its own. And then it's got portraits, step by step, how to kind of stuff, and then concept art, from years working in the industry. So it's a pretty cool book. I feel it's interesting. It's got something for everybody. It's got stories, it's got art, it's got tutorial kind of stuff. So check it out. What else are you reading, Ace? Print out. Yeah, go ahead. I know what you mean. Screen reading. Gotta make this eye a little bit higher. See, so you can see it's pretty easy to erase this Col erase pencil. Just line up those tear ducts. That's why it's nice to work in straight lines, because you can see heights and angles better. Line up the bottoms. Maybe that helps. Clarify as you go. Ace says he's reading Drawing Lessons from Great Masters by Robert Beverly Hale. Wow. Awesome. I like that. You like it so far? Sounds like a great book. Let's get that ear going. Kind of just a little bit lower than lined up with the bottom of the nose. It's lower than the line of the eyebrows, more like lining up with the eyes for the top of the ear. Yeah, Robert Beverly Hale. Very well-known name. Great teacher. But I myself have not read a lot from him. So if it's good, I will definitely read it. Let's see. Okay. Looking pretty good. Little block in. You know, the ear is one thing that I like to take some time on because it's kind of, you know, a secondary feature of interest. But if you give it its due respect, it actually makes the portrait, it's a supporting actor. And it makes your portrait better, more believable. And it's a feature on the side plane of the head that helps to give dimension to your drawing. You know, if there's nothing there, as opposed to having something there, it can give that side plane like an anchor. This eraser that I'm using is a Stettler Mars plastic eraser, and you can cut it so that it's kind of at an angle, so you can get razor sharp accuracy with it, you know, if you need to. And then I just use this Tombow Mono Zero, which is a little tougher, and you can get in there and scrub stuff out. Then I also like to kind of like shape off my design so that there's kind of a nice, let me just see if everything is designed and kind of considered, you know, and that also adds to mm, the, it makes it look something finished, like it's finished even though it's a sketch. Um, because design is something, such a powerful part of the process that we drawers and painters don't think as much as maybe like graphic designers do. And the power of design and how it affects the impression of your work. So when you think about your shapes and you think about shaping things off and considering every part, like I mentioned the ear, it's a secondary thing, but if you give it a little bit of love, it's going to help. Same thing with your shapes, if you shape off the neck, include the neck and shape it, consider how that shape affects the face and affects the believability and the completeness of it. Definitely something to consider, I find. Totally makes your stuff look more pro, for sure. But one thing at a time, it'll come. Just keep practicing. See that structure there? As we move down the side of the face, it kind of is diagonal and then moves vertically downward or in a downward direction, then it moves over. And it's kind of like a scaffolding to me. It's not just a one-dimensional line up, down, or diagonal. It's kind of moving its way across. Yeah, Glen Orbic, that's right. Ace asked if I studied under Glen Orbic. I did. I took online classes, Glen stuff. And met him when I was teaching at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. He was teaching there too. And so, got to know him a little bit, went out for coffee with him. Great guy. And then I was just shocked when I found out he died. He's like my age, so I was like, man. All right, so there's our little rough block in. And so now what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to tone everything with a local color type value. So my standard procedure is to, when I go to value, after blocking stuff in, I'll do, if I'm working in a 5 value system, I'll do a value number 2. So white is number 1. Number 2 is the local color. And so I'm just going to kind of go with this light flesh tone, kind of a pinkish. Just put it all over the place. And so that kind of sets it up, gets something on the page in terms of value, and gives it kind of a key, you know. So this could be what could be called the mother color. It's the, in music, it's the tonic, it's the root. So for us, that mother color is kind of like sets the tone for the structure in terms of color. You know, it's kind of a warm color. So this is going to be a warmed up a little bit portrait. So there, we got something on the page now. So I'll do kind of a value to the local color of the skin. And then go to value number 4. But with colored pencil, I work light. Okay, so I work the lights and gradually build things up. And like watercolor. Because if you go too dark with this stuff, it's hard to erase. So that's why I like to start light and build it up. So now I'll kind of go in and reinforce stuff. So I find that I like to go through a drawing, you know, 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4 times. And it has kind of a layering effect. That layering has an effect that makes the drawing look like it has depth. And I don't know. You know, it's definitely not like a line drawing or a pen and ink. It's something that has more richness to it. And so that layering effect coming through, I find, shows evidence of the kind of scaffold technique, the kind of idea that you're building the drawing and you're putting in the foundation. That all that stuff kind of comes through. And it has an effect that makes your drawing look more like it has more depth and like it's more believable because of that. And it has a kind of an old master's feeling to it, to me. So I kind of like that. Hey, Ace, gotta go. Okay. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Have a great day. Be safe. So I'm going to go a little darker, get these shadows in there. You know, you can go in one direction like this, vertically. You can go horizontally, whatever's comfortable for your hand. You know, you can cross hatch, but right now I just want to put it in flat and 2D. That's what Glen Orbic taught me. Put it in flat and 2D so you can see the design. And you can make corrections earlier in the process rather than later. You want to catch mistakes early, as early as you can. So working 2D, working the shapes and the shape design, catching proportions, fixing those things. Now it's better. Let me know out there what you guys are working on. What are you struggling with? Where you're at in the world. I can see the inside plane of that upper eyelid. And then I can't see that on the left side. You can't see that plane, but as it rolls around away from us, you can. there's always little fixes to do. So like I want to make the neck a little thinner, so I'll just push in a little bit inside that initial line that I made to make it thin, and then I'll erase that initial block-in line. And the tips on these pencils wear down really quickly, so you know, I want to keep rotating it as I draw. I'm rotating it. You see that? And then when it gets to a point where it's too round and the tip is too blunt, then I'll put it in the sharpener. It's kind of getting to that point a little bit. So after things are kind of blocked in, and I've got the value number 2 and the value number, well, I was going to say value number 4. That's what I would do with charcoal and graphite, but since this is colored pencil, I'm working up from light to dark, and so I've got kind of a value number 3 on here maybe right now for the darks. Keeping it flat. That's the secret. Keep your lights separate from your darks, keep it flat, and then go and render it so that it looks 3D. You don't want to jump the gun and start rendering too soon in the process, because you'll get fixated on details and things that don't matter yet, like pupils, reflections, nostrils, nose hairs, eyelashes, that kind of stuff. But if it's really dark and clear, you know, then you can go ahead and put it in. I mean, there's no rules, but it is nice to have kind of a structure that you can rely on and then break the rules as you go, you know. Each drawing could be a little bit different, keeping things fresh, you know. It's nice to change it up. That's kind of the theme of this drawing anyways, to try something new, break out the colored pencils that I haven't used in years. So we're gonna see where this all goes. Hey, DG Animation. Yeah, you watched my interview with Robert Valley. Thank you. Appreciate that. You enjoyed that? I sure did too. Robert's an old friend of mine and so much had such an impact on me as an artist early on. So my first job was in San Francisco as in an animation studio called Colossal Pictures. By the way, now I'm starting to add another value in the darks into that core shadow, and that's gonna start to approach rendering here, make things kind of look 3D. So we're gonna round things out just a little bit by softening that edge, that core shadow. And so, yeah, I met Robert there, and we would do figure drawing in the studio, and everybody would be drawing, and then Robert was doing these fantastic charcoal drawings, right, of the figure. And talk about shape design, talk about efficiency, talk about read. And his drawings looked like a classical master. Honestly, I would just say, I would look at them and go, what? There's so little information there, and yet it's saying so much. Sharpen here. And so, I would kind of ask him, hey, how'd you do that? How'd you do that mark? How'd you do that, that pattern or that passage? Or how did you handle, because I didn't really know what was going on, And so it was kind of little by little, it was like, I think one of the first things he told me was that it was just like, oh, I have this little hunk of charcoal and I shape it like a triangle. So we had like a hunk of charcoal, and so you have this charcoal. Usually it's round, like this, right? It's a stick of charcoal. But he had it shaped like a triangle. So then he had these edges here, right? And then he had the flat side here. So it was a little bit more precise. These are like thin, sticks of charcoal, maybe a little thicker than this. And it was small, so he'd make it small. And it became like a paintbrush, with edge control. You could get chiseled fine edges from there, or flat brush strokes, big brush strokes, and value all the way from black, middle gray, every shade of gray to white. And I was like, oh, that's how you handle this beast of charcoal, this damnable, untamable, black, crappy, If you don't know how to handle it, you think it's just dirty and unwieldy. And rightfully so, But if you know a few things about shaping it, about the different grades or different kinds of charcoal, then you can paint with it. It's really like painting to me. And that's where it gets really fun. Because I don't know. I guess I'm a drawer painter at heart. So painting is always, I've been painting digitally. So that's always on my mind, because I'm not like a tone person as much. Or I mean, I'm not a line person as much. I'm more of a tone person. And so I like the idea of drawing as painting because aesthetically, it's just my aesthetic. I mean, I love the look of line, but I just can't ink. I'm not an inker. I love Bernie Wrightson. I love Alphonse Mucha, but the clean lines, and we had to do a lot of clean up stuff in animation. So I learned to do it, but it's not my thing. But I'm glad I learned how to do it. And one big thing that transformed in my art journey is that, I didn't like straight lines. I didn't like geometric things because I'm an organic kind of guy. I didn't like drawing cars and buildings and stuff like that. I didn't like graphic design. But now I love it. I love straight lines because straights are so clear, they're so definite, and they give you structure. The straight lines and the angle breaks give you that structure, and then the curves give you the life. And the combination of those two simple concepts is just undeniable. It's efficient. I can do it. DG Animation, my work is beautiful, man. Hey, thank you. Yeah, George Evelyn was at the studio too. He was there. He was, a name. He was known, and he was kind of a little bit older guy than me. It felt like, and I didn't really hang out with him, but he was definitely somebody I knew of. I heard about him, and of course I saw him. You sound like you're in the business too. Have you been working in animation? If so, where have you been working? But do you know George? So one thing about, animation, it's about movement, it's about story, it's about energy and action. And, for a long time I struggled with that because I came from an illustration background. So when I went to Colossal, I was laboring over these drawings because I didn't understand animation. I didn't understand like partial drawings and getting from one drawing to the next with like flow. I didn't understand the principles of animation and arcs and secondary action and anticipation, action, reaction. And so that took some years reading Disney's Illusion of Life, looking at people's drawings. It was like the coolest thing was, well, going back to Robert for a second. What was I going to say? I forget. So some of these other cats at the studio, they had drawings that looked like they were moving or they were about to do something. I call it the about to pose. I'm about to run. I'm about to dunk this basketball. I'm about to, you know, throw a football. Oh, he worked, DG Animation worked with George Evelyn at OK Chuck Gamage Animation years ago. Now you work with Bob. You work with Bob. Robert? You call him Bob? Is that who you're talking about? If I called him Bob, he'd be like, what the? But that is his name, right? Yeah, so the about to kind of deal was something I wanted that. And the drawings they were like a bunch of lines. They were all gesture. And I wanted that so bad. I was like, I was like a painter. I would look at reference and copy it and just, it was just, I don't know, it suffered from lifelessness, maybe, like, didn't have movement and action and all that sort of stuff, dynamics. And so when I saw those drawings at the studio, I was like, I want to do that. What the hell is that? And, that didn't come just because I asked the question. I had to ask a lot of questions. I had to look at a lot of people's drawings or a lot of books. And study. And then realize, oh my God, I don't know shit. But that's when I got excited, because if you realize you don't know anything, you have your whole life ahead of you to learn. So there's never a time of, there's always hope. There's always something you can do as an old person. Just keep going. The ceiling, there's no ceiling. And I felt like that was kind of a life-changing thing for me, to know that, to realize that. And it kind of gives you a road, a vision, and a road map kind of for the future. It's one of the things. It's not the only thing, of course, but for life. But, maybe as a guy, kind of like you look at your accomplishments and your mastery of things. I think mastery is one thing that guys go through. It's a phase. Maybe it's a long phase, but the mastery phase, I think Joseph Campbell talks about it in The Hero of a Thousand Faces. Somewhere in there, men go through this. It's like a real thing, part of how we're made. And so that accounts for how men, what they think is important in life and how they go after it, and it's a phase that lasts a long time, and it really weighs on a man, That's sort of, it gives you a lot of inspiration too. Like, I'm gonna climb that mountain. I'm gonna master this sport or this drawing or this, weight or athletic endeavor or health thing, music, whatever it is, writing, thinking, mathematics, science, trying to understand things. I find that I love trying to understand things. That's a big motivator in my life, or has been. It's just trying to understand the world, trying to understand nature, observing nature, and just getting joy out of that. Looking at stuff, looking at people's faces, um, and just seeing the beauty of it. And then drawing is my sort of response to the beauty that I see around me and wanting to take it in, wanting to be part of it. And drawing kind of lets me do that. It lets me look, it lets me study and understand, and putting it down on paper is kind of like saying, I can have this to a certain extent. It's become part of me, at least insofar as that I've tried to understand it visually. And that's no small thing. That's a huge endeavor. You know what I'm talking about? I think you do. DG Animation says you mentioned on one of your streams, Rosetta. Have you made it out to the museum? No, gosh, I haven't. I would love to. That would be epic. Have you gone out there? I'm jealous. I've never seen a real life Rosetta painting. Rosetta was a big part of my childhood. That's how I learned how to draw, was just, copying Rosetta. Going through the Boris Rosetta thing. And just, I don't know, learning how to be a surface copier, a renderer, kind of a finisher, but not really a builder. And, like drawing out of your head. And I think, all those Walter T. Foster books that my dad had, how to draw a horse, how to draw a head. And I just thought those were so dumb. And I was way better than that. But I was just foolish, All that stuff I had to go back and really learn later because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it, and that'll get you so far, and then you'll get stuck. And that's when I found that I needed to learn how to break things down to their constituent parts, like ball, box, tube, how they connect, how to convincingly represent those things in space, what direction they're in space, and then building things with those things, simple things. And that's, I think that was a Vilpu thing, a Glen Vilpu stuff. Without Vilpu, I wouldn't be teaching anything, I think. And that was, he was drawing for animation kind of thing. But animation definitely made my drawing better because you're drawing every damn day and you just get better. And you get sick of being frustrated. So you're like, how can I get better faster? Well, you have to, it's your job. Yeah, so Robert, going back to Robert, he had kind of like this ability to make things look like old master type, Michelangelo drawing. But then he could go into making things look graphic and just state the most simplest anatomy, the most simplest shapes that would convey clearly, a figure, person in movement with expression, and and so it was like those are almost like two different worlds, you know, like the rendering, modeling, 3D stuff compared to the flat, shape-driven stuff. Um, and some guys see shapes really well, but it's very graphic. It has a very good read, clear read, and so it has power. So combining both those things. For example, like there's a face that's going to be rendered, but then there's this collar, and I can leave that flat and graphatized like a shape. And so those combination of contrasts, the flat 2D against the 3D, the straight against the curve and stuff. Simple ideas, but very powerful. Oh, yes. Let's see. DG Animation stopped by the museum enough to... Oh, en route to Lexicon. Oh, I bet it's mind-blowing. I'll bet. I'll have to do that. All right, I'm going to switch over here just to the second color in this analogous color scheme and just kind of come into the lights and do a little dark halftone here. Kind of going. So DG Animation, what kind of work have you been doing? What do you do in animation? Do tell. Hey, Sampico, what's happening, brother? Nice to see you. Welcome to the stream. Beautiful work as usual. A nice change from just graphite. Right, thank you. Get a little colorful. I want to make I need a little change. Yeah, Tampico asked what kind of colored pencils I'm using. I'm just using these Prismacolor pencils. It's a set I've had for 20 years, probably. I think I'm due for an upgrade. They've stayed with me all this time, and they're damn expensive. I remember that when I got them a long time ago. I don't know if they were a gift, but you know, I kind of want to look into some of those Faber-Castell color pencils. I forget what they're called. I think they're oil-based or something like that. And see if they're a little bit more firm than these, because like I said, these are softer, the tips wear down quicker, and it's harder to erase. So I'm just wondering if there's another solution. Animation for the past few years have been working for Robert Gorilla's Love Death Robot. Wow, cool. So you're working on what kind of program are you using for that? Is that kind of a Flash thing? Toon Boom, or how's that go? That gorilla stuff was so fun. Where are you? Are you in Canada or America or England? How did you meet Robert, by the way? Yeah. You were forced into TV Paint and you love it. Oh, good. I imagine it's pretty cool. So you're drawing everything on TV Paint. Okay. Passion Pictures. Was that the Jamie Hewlett stuff? All that gorilla stuff. Are you doing any fine art? What do you do for your, what's your Instagram? You don't have Instagram? What's up? You don't want it? Don't have time for it, maybe? Boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. Okay. I'll have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that one. Sounds like a TV show or a movie. $30-minute special. That's a lot of work, man. Perhaps it's a good thing it's not paper anymore, but paper was awesome. Paper animation. There's something so magical about it. And 3D, I mean, computers can do that, you know. Still feels with the technology, it feels good. Feels like drawing. Um, I just felt like 3D wasn't a thing that I could grab onto when everything went 3D with Toy Story and all that. I don't know. I just was like, it wasn't magic anymore for me. Like the process, like the outcome was great because, you know, you could see a movie and it could be a great story and it could move you and make you think. But just the process as an artist lost that magical thing that happens when you're flipping the pages at the animation desk. Thank God for Wacom. That technology really bridged the gap, man. It's like awesome. Yeah, DG Animation says he misses the texture of the paper and pencil and paper and the smell, the whole studio vibe. You know what I mean? I missed the studio vibe, except for the producers, the schedulers. Otherwise, I love the studio. Producerlings. Yeah, you agree with me, right? About the producers. We need them, you know, because they get things done and they keep things on track. You gotta have that, right? Because the artists will just fuck off for as long as they can. So, but you know, the necessary thing, I guess, get a production done. Are you working from home now or in a studio? Hmm. DG Animation asks, talk about more about my influences. By the way, um, what's your name, Mr. DG Animation? DG. I'll call you DG. DG stands for damn good. Um, influences Dean Cornwell. Yeah. Rosetta. Yeah. Sergeant. Yeah. Um, I did like Boris. He was like a heck of a renderer. He kind of pleased the renderer guy in me. Um, you know, like I don't know, I like you know some of those illustrators, the golden years of illustration. Bernie Fuchs, Bart Forbes, loved those guys, man. Like their stuff was sort of there but not. David Grove, right? Doing that stuff that was just like really tight in some areas and just like looking through glass, looking through fleeting impressions of light. in other areas of the painting. Thomas Blackshear. Um, I got to study with him at a workshop. That was like great. I want to get him to come on my YouTube channel for an interview, but he hasn't responded. Robert Heindel. Remember Robert Heindel? He did those dancers, those ballet dancers that were kind of like abstract and full of movement, but yet solid as hell. I don't know how to describe it. I'm trying to think of some abstract people because I like abstract too. I love to weave it into my art. Like there's this lady, Virginia Cobb, and she wrote a book called Breaking the Bounds of Watercolor. This is an amazing book of just abstract stuff, but the way she uses the materials like gouache, watercolor, charcoal dust, even paper, and sort of tools like scraping tools, pouring tools. And I love that stuff, dude. That is like so cool. So I don't know if you know Vanessa Lemon, and she does faces, but the backgrounds are kind of like Virginia Cobb type stuff. Virginia Cobb does landscapes and sort of things like that, but Vanessa Lemon has the Virginia Cobb-esque qualities in her work, textures and stuff like that. Some contemporary stuff. There's just so many. I mean, if you go on Instagram, you're going to see a crazy amount of stuff. Zhao Ming Wu is my hero for portraits and figures. Zhao Ming Wu is, when I went to China, I started finding his books there and then studying his books and then unlocking the secrets of charcoal. Oh my God. So he's just amazing. Henry Yan. You probably heard some of those guys. Just can't get enough of that stuff, you know? Like never, the fascination never wears off. It's like listening to music. Check out Sirach. Melkonian abstract. Okay. Oh yeah, Robert McGinnis. How could I forget? Totally. I'm with you. I'm on the McGinnis train. What a draftsman. What a storyteller. It's unbelievable. His figures. That kind of made me think of who was that concept artist who worked in gouache? Sid Mead. It made me think of Sid Mead when you said that. Sid Mead was pretty badass. And then, you know, like Craig Mullins. You know, I know you're an animator, but in that painter concept art world, Craig Mullins was the first guy, maybe the second guy I saw that was using digital as if it was looked traditional. And so Eric Tiemans, he had a website called watersketch.com, and I found that way back in 2001 or something, and was like, how are these guys doing this digital stuff that looked traditional? And yeah, goodbrush.com, Craig Mullins, great stuff. John Whitcomb. I don't know John Whitcomb, do I? Is he an illustrator, an artist? Probably if you showed me his work, I would know who he is. I don't know if you know Michael Dudash. He's a great illustrator. And I'm trying to think of. I just can't think of his name right now. Oil painter, portrait artist. This is Kim Jung-gi, Kim Jung-gi. Where we at? Where we at? This song wants to make me rap. So did you go to Mr. DC? Did you go to Emily Carr or what's the other animation school in Vancouver. Oh, Sheridan, right. Sheridan. Yeah, so just going back, touching on animation, um, I came into animation through the back door by luck, by chance, and so I kind of struggled with the concept, and I think I was mentioning that before, because I thought it was like, rendering and painting and beautiful illustrations and stuff. And man, you just, if you have that mindset, you're gonna really struggle because you have so much footage you have to do, so much work to complete. And there's a whole team of people, so you don't have to, every drawing doesn't have to be colored, it doesn't have to be like finished off, really, you know. That's kind of like for ink and paint and stuff. So that for a while, breaking, or not breaking habits of illustration, but bringing aspects of drawing in, but you know, illustration and painting have their roots in drawing. So does animation, but they diverge because illustration and painting gets into rendering and making things look 3D, and animation is not that. So that took me a long time to realize that. Even if somebody sat me down and said, look, here's the difference between, drawing in terms of illustration and animation, here's the difference. I might not have been able to put that into play, even if they told me, something that it has to click in. So that's all there is to it. Yeah. I wanted to be a drawer, painter, illustrator too. That's a night and day job. Right. Takes a lot of time, dedication to be an animator. It's one of the most, I don't know, cool things you can do to be an astute observer of life around you and how things move and how things look. And it's really cool. Sometimes putting a nice outline around something kind of holds it and grabs your attention of the viewer. It says, look here, and it's kind of a nice, Muka used to do this a lot, right? Put a nice tight line around something that was inside the boundary of the line was rendered in 3D, and then the line was kind of a graphic thing. It could be a single weighted line or have a variety of thick and thin, but it was a nice contrast to the continuous tone of rendered flesh and then that graphic line. Nice combination. I just kind of did that right there. Tough thing with these pencils, they're a little bit crumbly. So when you press down hard, it's hard to maintain that tight line, that tight, clean line. My drawing is elegant, man. Such a compliment. Appreciate that. I'm wondering if it's because a little bit of the line quality. Because before, for animation, I didn't have line quality. I was a tone guy. But you have to do so much like cleaning drawings, and they have like dark lines around them, right? Like cartoons do. And those lines have to be super crisp and clean, and agonizing over that stuff taught me, some of this little flavors that you can add to a drawing, a painting, or an illustration that make it a little more bold, the thick and thin line stuff. But I appreciate that compliment. Thank you very much. Mm. Probably learned it from Robert Valley. Really, you meet some people, right? And they have a big influence, and it's kind of rare to meet those people, like of that quality. And so, I don't know. I just met him at that right time, right place. But Garrett Sheldrew, I don't know if you know Garrett, he was at the studio too. And he was like a drawing savant, crazy. Um, and he was a little different than Robert. And but that same level of awesomeness. And then Peter Chung, right? Because I worked on Eon Flux, and he was like drawing like that too, like almost like photographic memory type stuff. On that interview with Robert, I wanted to ask him, and I didn't, about when he's animating, does he see it on the paper first? Like just, or sense impressions of movement and then draw it? Or does he, just hack it out like a normal mortal has to do? All right, let's see. Guys, I think I'm going to leave it here. I need to take a break. So I'm going to finish this off the stream, but it has been a great stream. You guys, thanks for coming so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Once again, wanted to just mention that I'm having a sale for up to 40% off for my drawing courses over at drawjuice.com. If you're looking for a community to join with like-minded artists who are drawing and love art, go over to the Discord server. The link is in the description. And guys, I will see you next time. Okay. Until then, peace out. Keep drawing. All right. Bye, guys. See you later, DG Animation. Great talking to you, man. Keep on animating. Okay, and get Instagram. All right. Ciao, ciao.